Hello, people. This is the Lee Cole 3 podcast. Yes, podcast. And James, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing really good, Lee. How are you today?
Good. I'm glad James Proctor, as usual, is here. He does a lot of the researching, and then we
Yep.
put these shows together, and we try to give you the information that we feel you deserve. We're going to be talking about Jerry Capisci once again, who put up another article today. And the reason we talk about Jerry Capisci, because every Thursday he puts up an article. He has a very good site, and I would recommend that people actually spend the $5 a month and join his site because he has the best encyclopedia out there. Would you agree with that, James?
Yeah, I definitely do. He also has a lot of contacts. He's been in the business for 35, 40 years, and to me, he's one of your go-to sources for
Yes.
information.
And we don't have many sources like that.
No.
So, this is one guy that I would recommend him because it's a decent thing to do if you use an article from somebody. But 99% of you guys do not read these articles. That's why we bring up an article when Jerry Capisci does a good article, because this is going to turn into a whole show. It goes very much further than just the article.
Right.
And people might say, oh, Gene Borrello and Sammy Gravano again? Yes. Why do we talk about them, James?
Well, it's obvious that people want to know what's going on with them. I mean, they're the ones that when you have them in the headlines, people watch or view or read,
And it seems like Gene Borrello has a very big fan. A matter of fact, the biggest fan that Gene Borrello has is the person that determines whether he goes to prison or not.
Yep.
And his name is Judge Block. And so, what is Judge Block's opinion of Gene Borrello?
Yeah, I mean, he considers him, and this is just a crazy statement. I just cannot believe he would say this. He's saying that Judge Block's assessment of Borrello's cooperation was only surpassed by Sammy the Bull. So all the informants out there, Gene Borrello is number 2 in Judge Block's view. And so I definitely want to know what he's smoking, and I'd like to have some too.
Oh, really? I didn't realize you smoke. Okay. So, when you have a judge, okay, this judge is sitting up there. He's about to sentence Gene Borrello once again. He told the prosecution, and it's kind of funny because the feds created Gene Borrello. Would you say that? They're the ones that created them, and now they're trying to destroy the monster they created.
Yes, exactly. They're the ones that created this.
Okay. And so we have people like, let's say, we have Sal Vitale. Do you think that Gene Borrello was more important than the information that Sal gave?
Not at all. I mean, he's the one that actually led to Massino cooperating.
He most definitely did, because then Massino was pushed in the corner and he was a boss. Yep. Gene Borrello wasn't even an associate.
No.
This is, at all. And then you have little Al Diarco, who was considered a huge source.
Yeah.
And when you look at these guys and you realize that, okay, they're informants, but they're putting Gene. How many times did Gene Borrello actually go to court and sit in court to actually point his finger at people?
Yeah, so, and that's a good question, because it's actually, there's 2 parts to it. So, as far as actual trials, he never testified in a true trial, because all of the 21 defendants in the 3 cases that were brought out, they all pled guilty on.
Okay, and so we're talking about Vinny Asaro.
Yep.
Ronnie G. Alonzo.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking about John A. Gotti, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
John J. Gotti. Yep.
John J. Gotti. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So, but you got Asaro, you got Asaro, Ronnie G, and Ron J. Gotti. They all got they they all got in trouble because of information that Gene Borrello put out there. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. So there were three major indictments. They were all in 2017, and so all three of them ended up pleading guilty.
And what do those three men have in common from Gene Borrello?
Well, they served their time, you know.
Yeah, they served their time. One, two of them are still serving their time, and one's out. Asaro's out, but he's old. He's he's an old man now, very
Sure.
old. I'm an old man, but he's older. Well, I'm young compared to him.
Yeah.
Then Ronnie G is out. He's going to be doing. He still has a few years left on his sentence, and so does John J. Gotti.
Yeah.
But they all took their sentence and went to prison.
Sure.
Okay, and so here's a guy that's never got on the stand, and he is loved. But there's somebody that isn't in love with him right now. Why don't you tell us who that is?
Yeah, so it's really it's interesting. It's we're talking about Sammy Gravano. He's not a big fan of Gene Borrello, and so you want to go ahead? Yeah, Capisi.
Well, I'll put up the article. Okay,
Yep.
that's good. I'm going to put up the article by Jerry Capisci today. We'll read it, and then we're going to go in depth into more stuff about everything, and we'll take it from there. Yep. And once again, this is Jerry Capisci's article that we're reading. This is a short article, and I'm going to put it up, read it, and then we'll move on from there.
Yep.
Okay. Sammy the Bull on Gene Borrello. And Sammy says, I never got busted for stupid poop. He didn't want to talk about it, but ex-Gambino underboss Salvatore Sammy the Bull Gravano heard about how former Bonanno gangster Gene Borrello and Brooklyn federal court judge Frederick Block had compared Gravano's life and times to Gene Borrello's after they flipped and became cooperating witnesses at his sentencing this month. So at the sentencing this month, he compared him to an underboss.
Yeah.
Okay, wow. That's nuts, he said. I got violated once, got busted after I came out, he said. Then he paused, apparently to think about how to describe that sad situation for him when he was arrested in Arizona for dealing ecstasy with his son and was sentenced to 20 years in prison for it. So that's the crime that he did. And he's basically saying, okay, I did this one crime, which was a very big crime.
Yeah.
I mean, he was building an empire. Is that right? Would you say he was building an empire in Arizona?
Yeah, exactly. He wanted to have an Arizona mafia, and in fact, he wanted it to be similar to the New York mafia, but including people from all ethnicities. And in fact, he even was going to talk to Joe Bonanno's family about it because he didn't want to compete with the Bonanno family that had some things going on.
Yeah, then Sammy went on to say, I never got busted for stupid crap like threatening my girlfriend's family or threatening to beat people up. I can't figure out what's up with him. Gravano, who became the first mafia underboss to take the witness stand against his boss, had testified at trials of two other mob chieftains, Genovese family leader Vincent DeChin and Little Vic Arena. Now listen to those names I just said. That he testified against.
Yeah.
I mean, those are, and they're trying to, he literally got on the stand and testified against these people. Gene Borrello never sat on a stand.
No.
So I don't know, this is for this judge to think that Gene's at the same level of these other rats. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is. Very crazy.
Meanwhile, the government, as for the government, Gene Borrello is preparing for trial on May 9th on 12 additional violations, supervised release charges. So he's preparing for Gene's preparing to take this to trial. Right now, Gene's probably unhappy with the plea they're offering him.
Yeah.
I mean, they're offering him something.
Yeah.
So if he still wants to take this to trial, Gene's probably thinking, well, I have a better chance. No matter what, I'm going to get that sentence. The max he can do is like 3 years, something around there. And the minimum he could do is get probation and be let out.
Right. Yeah, and part of it too is that as we get closer to May 9th, then the prosecution and the attorneys will get more serious about trying to get some sort of possible agreement in place. Because if I remember right, Judge Block wanted them to come to court with some sort of agreement so that they wouldn't actually have to go to trial on the night. But there
Yeah.
must be some issues going on.
Okay. And so what they're saying is on May 9th, on 12 additional violations, supervised charges, the probation department is working feverishly to publicly docket the fodder-based VOSR charges that were lodged in September of 2022 and in January of 2023 for violations that occurred after he moved in there in May of last year. He's been sentenced to 10 months for VOSRs in the first two filings. And as we know, he's done 4 months and 6 months. And right now he's currently in the process of doing 6 months.
Yeah.
Gangland described many allegations of the VOSRs 2 weeks ago, but on Monday, Block ordered the probation department to docket. This is what makes me nervous.
Yeah.
Brief descriptions of all 12. Now, explain to people what VOSRs are, just so people know.
Yeah, so that's just a violation of supervised release in the federal system. Probation's done differently. So think of it as in the state, if you're on probation, you violate your probation or parole. So this is just their term for it, violation of supervised release.
Okay, and that's all 12 VOSRs that Borrello now face. And now, okay. So now let me get this down. And once again, say thank you to Jerry Capisci for letting us use his article.
Yeah.
Okay. So
what is that? That's one thing I did want to mention on this that was curious. So they want to docket brief descriptions. Is that?
That's what makes me worry. They want brief descriptions means brief descriptions. And it sounds like the judge may have his mind made up already what he's doing with this.
Yeah.
And so you got this monster created by the feds and by the prosecutors and stuff. And now they don't like that this monster has turned from, I don't know, from Fred Flintstone to Godzilla.
Yeah.
I mean, how else would you describe it?
All right.
They let this guy out. He's doing all this damage on the streets. And now the judge think about this. If Gene Borrello gets let out for the charges that he's already been in, that means that he's getting a free pass on everything he did in Florida.
Yeah, exactly. And this is what's always surprised me about this. So when you look back at Gene Borrello's life, he started his life of crime when he was 19. Maybe he did stuff before. He probably did, but we know that started in 2003 when he was 19 years old. And he was in prison, or he was locked up between September 2007 and July 2010. So he was doing prison time then for crimes that he committed in 2003. So he didn't learn then, right? And then after he gets out in 2010, he does all of these other crimes. Basically not gangster stuff. I mean, this guy was he was an out of
control thug.
Yeah.
He was doing stuff that he was not ordered to do.
Right.
By, say, Ronnie Gialonzo or Vinny Asaro. And don't get me wrong, those guys are, they're not saints. They've done some bad things.
No, but that's true. Yeah, horrible stuff. But he was going after civilians, people that weren't even in the life, and he was terrorizing that neighborhood.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. Okay, and I'll give you an example right now. In March of 2014, he was involved in he planned a home invasion robbery in Howard Beach, and with this guy named Bald Chris Boothby. Okay, now this guy Boothby was the driver. He wound up getting more time. He waited outside. He wasn't even in the house.
Right.
And this Boothby guy got more time than Gene Borrello. And he was the driver. And see, so, and this is why this get out of free jail card for becoming a rat is so important to a
Right.
lot of these guys. So let's get, so in this home invasion, Howard Beach, he got over $50,000 in cash, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of jewelry, including a high-end designer watches and a Cartier ring from Jane Doe's finger. Not only did he get it from Jane Doe's finger, this is a woman that was basically in the shower.
Mm-hmm.
She came out. They pulled the ring from her finger. The woman made statements that she was in fear for her life. She had no idea what they were going to do to him. And Robert Catrone, who was a businessman in the area, he was robbed by Gene.
Mm-hmm.
And these were hardcore, robberies, home invasions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And these home invasions were not ordered by members of the family there because they're not going to terrorize Howard Beach.
Right.
That's where they live.
Exactly.
But Gene Borrello was out there terrorizing Howard Beach. Do you know that it got so bad? Matter of fact, it got so bad, and that's just so people know, is another guy that took a plea because of Gene.
Mm-hmm.
But it got so bad that the police department actually put up a temporary policing area to catch this gang, this gang that was doing these home robberies.
Yeah.
And it was violent. They were nervous. They were under the assumption that eventually someone was going to get killed. So and Gene was the boss of this gang. He put a group of guys together. And when he testified, I'll give you an example, against John Gotti, the son. And he made claims that Gotti did things that, like burning the car.
Yeah.
And then Gene brags that he burned the car.
Mm-hmm.
So you got Gene here that's on here saying things that are opposite of what he's testifying. Again,
right.
Something like Sammy Gravano.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think when you think, okay, this guy, would you call Gene Borrello a gangster or a thug?
Yeah, this is a thug because there's no honor in doing what he's doing, going after civilians, going into their homes, violating a person's property. It's not at all, not a gangster.
And it was
he
also
did gangster stuff. He was an enforcer. That part was true. He was there to collect debts and
he was an enforcer, but let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
He shot his gun a few times. How many times did those bullets land?
Well, it didn't land they landed every time. They didn't go in a body or through a body.
He shot at Chris Cognata. I did a matter of fact, people.
Yeah.
I did a video on him that's got a really Chris was a one-man army that went up against the Bonanos in general were afraid of him because he was nuts. He was a tough guy. And Gene shot at him and then accidentally shot into a car with a woman because he thought that Cognata was in the car.
Wow.
He wasn't. It was an innocent woman. So, these are the things that Gene Borrello did. And, and now there's a chance that he might get out of jail on probation without get any consequences of what happened in Florida.
Right. And that's what concerns me is that, if it just happened, let's say he had just gotten arrested once and, he got violated, but, give him maybe another chance. But he's been arrested, he was in prison for 3 years in the 2000s. He didn't learn from that. He was arrested again with the stuff from the teens where he, ended up going to jail, in 2016, 17. Didn't learn from that. He's gotten violated before, 6 months and 4 months where he's had to serve time for a violation. He's not learning. And then he did all these crimes again in Florida. Why do they keep on giving him chances? And what value is he even bringing at this point to the government?
Yeah, this is what's going on.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny. The government creates these monsters, and then they want to bring them down when they get out of control.
Yeah.
Uh, Frankie Pasqua,
Hmm.
um, people like that, or guys that go home and break their wives' jaws or their girlfriend's jaws, knocks their teeth out, do
Hmm.
violent stuff.
Yeah.
John Panisi.
Yeah.
You can go on and on. I mean, uh, but they get that second, third, and fourth chance. But out of all of them, Gene Borrello is loved by the judge.
Yes.
That's what it seems like.
Hmm.
And as long as that judge has the right to make that sentence, what do you think is going to happen? What's your prediction on when he goes back? Will Gene take this to trial, or will they come to a deal?
They're going to get a deal because the judge wants them to, but there'll be some sort of deal that the judge will approve, in my opinion. I don't
Because
see a trial happening. They're going, if this goes to trial, I mean, also, this is also a violation of release, but I'm part of it too is this will take care, right, of the charges in Florida, the state charges.
yeah, and there's some good
So,
evidence against those
yeah,
charges, though. We're talking about
right.
evidence and phones that were seized.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, he would be foolish to take this to trial.
Yeah, I just don't see him doing that. Because right now he's got his biggest ally now, which is the judge, right? So he doesn't need to go before a jury. He doesn't want to let this go to any trial because he's not going to get that type of treatment that he gets from this judge.
And what's funny about this whole thing? We're talking about informants and stuff,
Hmm.
and Mikey Scars put away what, over 80 people.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Michael Scars was considered the star witness. So if anyone out there would be considered the top uh, witness per the feds, it'd be Mikey Scars because he went to 14 trials and he secured 80 convictions and they recovered $30 million. So
oh, they
they
recovered $30 million because of
because of
Scars.
Mikey Scars. Yeah,
Wow, I didn't
he did a
realize that.
lot of damage. Yeah, a lot of damage.
Would you say that Mikey Scars is more valuable than Joe Messino?
They that's hard to say. Both of them did a lot. So like Messino put away obviously Vinny Gorgeous and pretty much the whole. But maybe Scars because Messino, unfortunately, or when you look at the Bonanos, pretty much they had all either flipped or were going to be in jail anyway. So Messino really didn't do too much once he flipped. Right, he
Yeah,
did the
because
one
when he came
trial.
out, all that stuff was out there. But what he did is
Yeah,
he actually got a soldier that trusted him to
yeah,
meet with, well, a captain that trusted him to
right,
meet with him, Vinny Gorgeous, and he
right.
got him on tape on two things. One thing was tossed out, and the other thing was accepted on
Yeah.
a murder.
Right. Yeah, and pretty much just did the 2012 trial and then did a couple of trials. So Mikey Scars did more damage than Messino, even though Messino was a boss.
Yes, it
Yeah.
was just who they knew and who they were around.
Right.
The fact that so much money was recovered in itself speaks of a lot. And
Yeah.
so, what do you think a guy like Sammy Gravano thinks when he's sitting back? Here he is, the underboss of the
Yeah.
Gambinos. He was probably the most famous informant ever. And
Hmm.
he's like Gene Borrello is mentioned in the same breath as Sammy Gravano by
Hmm.
Judge Block.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he didn't understand it either. He'd actually brought up a few of the names when Capisi was asking him. And so, yeah. He doesn't. I mean, it's not in the same league at all. I mean, I just, it's just to me was a stupid statement in the judge. I
I
mean, the
think the
judge
judge.
is in love with him, or there's something he's got a crush on Gene. I don't know what it
Hey,
is.
no, let's not go there. Let's not go
Yeah.
there.
Oh, something's
But
weird.
yeah. Poor judge. But what do you
Yeah.
can you imagine what the prosecution thinks? So it's like we got all this stuff in this guy, and there's a chance he might walk again.
Well, and that's the thing that's what's frustrating to the prosecution. They've spent so many hours I mean, in years on these cases. And then they have, of course, they signed off on being able to have um, Gene, but what value? But the thing is, at a certain point, value isn't there anymore. Once the value's not there, then they just need to go. The prosecution just wants to put him away, and the judge is not appreciative of the prosecution, in my opinion.
And it's got to bother the prosecutors. But you know what?
Yeah.
Hey, you guys loved him when he was doing your job for you.
Yeah.
Please, people, hit the like button and subscribe. Please hit the like button. That's very important. And please subscribe if you have not. We are 2 away from 9,100, James.
Yeah.
And there's been a rumor out that that we're one of the dying shows that Tom Lavecchia talks about. Kind of
that's
funny.
just crazy. Yeah.
And I challenge anybody that makes silly statements like that, especially a certain silly guy that has been around for a long time that keeps making negative statements. He wants, I don't know whether he wants bad publicity from us, but if he keeps it up, he's going to get it. But the fact of the matter is, we don't care what anybody else does. We wish every show the best on here.
Mm-hmm.
I can honestly say that. Everybody should just do their own thing and not worry about what other people are doing. Would you agree with that, James?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's we're taking our show a certain direction, and it's working. And so, and what we want even more than subs. I don't think people understand how user engagement is important to this. The number of comments, the number of likes, number of people actually engaging with the shows. That's showing a lot of the growth of the show.
That's
So
what
hopefully
YouTube cares
people
about. They care
understand
about
that.
the remarks underneath the show
Yeah.
and the engagement. That's what they care about.
Yeah.
And this show has become very engaged.
Mm-hmm.
The reason we cut back on lives is because when you do lives, you don't get engagement after the show. Very little do you get underneath
True.
in the comment section. And so, people need to worry about their own shows. They don't need to worry about our show. If they think our show sucks, if they think that I'm a fraud or they want to talk about Danny Trio, whatever, then they should say, okay, well, Lee's show's dead. James Proctor jumped on a sinking ship.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the furthest thing from the truth. Our show right now is doing better than it has. And I've been here almost a year and a half, a little bit over a year and a half.
Yeah.
It's the most solid I've felt with this show. I see a lot of new people join it. Yeah. We gained 405 subs in the last 28 days.
Yeah.
So somebody's liking this show.
Yeah.
And James, let's get back to this other part now with Sammy Gravano.
Yeah. Yep.
Now Sammy's has his own issues, right?
He does, yeah.
And now he's now all of a sudden this thing with Gene Borrello bothers him. Sammy gets bothered very easy, doesn't he?
Yeah, that's something that I've noticed a lot lately, but that's been part of his personality even throughout his life. He gets triggered easily, he gets upset easily, and he takes things personally easily.
But I really understand where he's coming from when he's upset that Gene Borrello is being compared to him.
I agree with him in this case.
Sammy's like, hey, I'm the head rat. This guy?
Yeah. What I don't agree with is that when, Sammy's saying he had never done any stupid stuff like Gene. But if you look at what he did in the ecstasy case, some of that stuff was pretty.
He brought his kids in on it. I mean,
yeah, just dumb.
He got involved with something that he didn't need. At that time, he had money. He didn't even need to get involved. When he got out of prison the first time, he had money waiting for him.
Yeah, he did.
So and he still got involved in it.
Yeah.
And no, Sammy does some real. Look at Sammy's lives. He does a lot of silly things in his lives all the time that we talk about.
Yeah.
So I guess part of being a gangster is doing a lot of stupid things.
Yeah.
But But the thing is with Sammy saying to himself, look, I was a gangster. Gene Borrello was not a gangster. Gene Borrello was a thug.
Yeah.
And, okay. And what else would you like to, anything else you want to discuss? Will you discuss this?
No. Only thing I wanted to mention was just it was interesting to me to see a judge make that statement about Gene Borrello's cooperation of how much it meant for the government, and I just really want to understand what value is Gene bringing to the government today. Did it? I mean, I know a lot of this is sealed, so maybe he's still providing value.
Well, not
Maybe,
only that, not
yeah.
only is it sealed, it was ordered sealed. There was a lot of things that were kind of really weird with Gene's case.
Yeah.
On documents. I'm sure you read up on that.
Yeah.
It's certain things that were sealed that really didn't.
Yeah.
They went above and beyond with him, and I guess that maybe the government was afraid that some of the things that Gene was saying could be proven not true.
Yeah, that may be it. And I'm kind of and also concerned what I'm thinking of let's look at the cases down in Florida. The couple of things that I'm thinking about is, they talk about drugs and steroids. Is there any sort of bigger case that maybe Gene's going to be able to point the finger or rat on?
Would anybody be surprised if you're gonna if you were gonna rat on two guys he ratted on? Why wouldn't he rat on some guys running around dealing steroids?
Well, yeah. I mean, if I was a criminal, I think Gene would be the last person I'd want to team up with,
Well, and if they did, they're going to be sweating a little bit right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I appreciate you being on the show today, James. And
thank you.
That's just a brief summary of what's going on.
Yep.
And I'm looking forward to doing we have a really good interview coming up this weekend and another interview next. We got two really good interviews coming up.
Yeah.
One is with a guy that was involved with a murder.
Yep.
And another one is with a major author on a major mob book. So, so we got those two coming up, and I'm really looking forward to it. Are you looking forward to those too?
Yeah, I really am. And that's something that I'm seeing a lot of. We're getting more people that want to be on the show. They're wanting to be interviewed. We're getting a lot of good, the Frank De Matteo video was the first part, we got a lot of positive comments on that. So we're getting people that want to be interviewed and be part of this. And that's exciting for me, to be part of it. We
still got the second part of the Frank De Matteo video to release, but we're waiting on that because there was a lot in it. It was a 2-hour show, and we got the first one out. We'll probably release that sometime next week. Yeah. And there he really gets into the book that he just wrote. And he has a good following. He's a pretty well-liked guy. There's nothing negative said about him.
No.
You don't see any sleazy stuff with him, and he admits what he did. Sure. And, I think that's why he's pretty popular, right?
Yeah, and he doesn't, and he will not rat. He's not a dry snitch. Anyone that says he's a dry snitch, they're just stupid. There's one person out there that's been giving him problems for years saying that, and no one believes it. It's obvious that he's a frank stand-up guy.
He never writes a book. He never writes a book about anybody active.
No, not at all. And
he can very easily. He knows a lot of active guys, and not only active guys. He knows guys that are retired from the life, and he says, "I will never talk about them as long as they are alive."
Yep. Yep. Exactly. It does. But that's great. I loved it. It was great to talk with him, with Frank.
So we talked about hit the like and the subscribe. If you want to donate to the show, you could donate to the Cash Apps or the PayPal. And if you don't want to, that's fine. There's also a heart underneath here if you want to donate to the show. We put a lot of time and effort into these shows, and we do a lot of research. It's a lot different than doing lives, people. When I used to do lives, I'd just jump on. I wouldn't have much information, just to entertain. But one of the advantages are, too, I have James helping me.
Yes, I enjoy it. Yeah, thank you for letting me be part of this. It's
Thank
been
you
a
for all
lot
the
of fun.
research you do. Okay.
Sure.
Okay, people. So thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this video. And we'll be dropping 2 more interviews within the next couple days.
Yep.
Okay. People, thank you. And subscribe and hit the like.